Hi everyone, I hope everyone can hear me. I'm ready to go. I hope you guys are ready. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Heinrich Botes. I'm also a bit of a serial entrepreneur and own a couple of companies. One of the companies that I do own is an accounting firm, a modern accounting practice. And the nice thing about it, we get exposed to a lot of SMEs, and I just want to share a couple of things, today with you guys. Just the sort of common questions and that we experienced over the last couple of years. My accounting firm is about 7 years old, and I've started it back in 2011, and it's one of my companies that I actually currently own. So I'm just going to carry on with the presentation. Okay, so business and accounting. Oops. Yeah, sorry. There you go. Okay. So one of the common questions that gets asked from entrepreneurs and people starting new companies is actually, what is the best structure, legal structure that they need to consider? Now, there's no right or wrong answer. There's pros and cons depending on the kind of scenario. So I'm just going to explain the common ones, which most SMEs need to consider. The one is the stock standard Pty Limited. It's a limited liability company, and the other one is the sole prop. So basically, the big difference between a legal Pty Limited and a sole prop is a Pty Limited is a legal entity by itself. So basically, your personal assets is not part of the business, and the company's assets it's basically their own assets. Where a sole prop, it's pretty much everything is in the same pool. There's no split between your asset and the business assets. So the big difference there is that when it comes to sole props, basically you're trading in your personal capacity. The benefit there is a lot less compliance, so it's a lot cheaper to run. The downside is that if somehow that you do run in financial troubles, that your creditors can actually come and claim your personal assets. With Pty Limited, it's a legal entity by itself. Assuming that you didn't commit fraud or gross negligence, your personal asset is protected, and the creditors can't come after your assets at the end of the day. That's one thing to consider when deciding starting a new business. Also, one big thing to consider is it is very easy to go and incorporate a company. Pretty much with subsidies, everything is online. You basically can be up and running with one day. A lot of problems, a lot of things that we've seen over the time that people don't consider is, if you do decide to go on the Pty sort of structure, there is a lot of compliance that actually apply to it, and people are not aware of it. And so we always tell clients, if you're going to register a company with SIPC, you have to sort of budget anything between 10 to 20,000 rand a year just on compliance fees. So it can get quite expensive depending on which the kind of funding. If you're funding it yourself, paying 10,000 rand on a yearly basis is still quite a lot of money. With a sole prop, it's basically it's a lot less compliance that you have to apply to. Also cheaper to run. At the end of the day, it's just a personal tax return that you have to do. Whatever income you earn in this company perspective falls part of your personal income tax return. Each of these different structures, like I said, has got different tax implications. The one benefit, so my advice is, the best structure is basically a Pty Limited. The downside there is the compliance cost. But the nice thing there is one of the things that's quite beneficial there, that SARS do have they call it a small business tax, which is quite, from a tax perspective, to give you guys an idea, your first, give or take, your first 80,000 rand is tax exempt from a net profit point of view. Between 80,000 and 120,000, I think it's taxed at 7%. Between 120,000 to 320,000 or 320,000 gets taxed around about 21%. And then it's only above 550,000 Rand that gets taxed at your normal 28%. So that is quite beneficial. Most of our clients actually, there is restrictions, of course, where you have to comply to be able to qualify for that tax break. But most of our clients actually run on a PTY limited and for a small business tax. Other options is that's available to you as an SME as turnover tax. I'm not quite, it's not very popular with my clients that we've experienced, mainly because you get taxed. It's a very simple structure. Basically, you get taxed on your turnover, not your profit. That is the downside. As when you start a company, most of the time, any money that you make, you put back into the company. So the first 3 years, you don't really normally pay any taxes. Where turnover tax is based on your turnover. So basically, if you make more than a certain amount, you will pay taxes, even although you might have made a loss in a company's perspective. So just the stuff to consider. Sole prop is great to get going, but the risk there is that your personal assets is not protected. PTYs are great, and they have a split between your personal assets and the company assets. Downside though is compliance cost, which can end up that people are not aware of. I see there's a couple of questions here. I'm just gonna while we're at it. Yes, the presentation is available on email. I think I'll just ask them to email it to everybody that's on the session. How long is it legally allowed to trade as a sole prop until I have to register PTY? So theoretically, there's no limitations on how long you can trade as a sole prop. The nice thing with a sole prop, you can register for pay-as-you, you can register for VAT. Like I said, at the end of the years, you still do everything the same. You still have provisional tax that you have to submit twice a year, but it all falls part of your own, as of you submitting your own tax return at the end of the day. So there's no limit to how far you can go with a sole prop. You can trade indefinitely with a sole prop at the end of the day. Again, as your business grows, you do want to start splitting your personal assets with your company assets. It's just, business, you are there to take risk, and you don't want, if something goes wrong, you want your personal assets to be protected. Okay, so please, another question here. Please also differentiate between an incorporation as well as a partnership in terms of possible tax implications. So to be quite honest, I don't deal a lot with partnerships. Partnerships is sort of very particular in your tax practitioner, in your audit environment, where they have to be incorporated as a partnership. Also in the medical industry, you get incorporated as a partnership. Just roughly, like I said, I don't deal with a lot, but at the end of the day, is the way that works is that the profit splits at the end of the year, and then each partner is responsible for their own taxes at the end of it, depending on the profit splits. I've got another question here. Do you pay tax returns if you don't make profit? So with turnover tax, you will pay tax even if you don't make profits. Your normal company, you won't pay any taxes if you don't make a profit. So that's, again, like I explained, to the benefit or the downside of turnover tax. It's they try to streamline the process. Downside is you pay tax on your revenue, and even although you might have made a loss, you still pay taxes. Where with a company is you have to make a profit before starting to pay tax. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Other question that I get asked a lot is funding your business, and also being an entrepreneur myself. I know it's one of those things that pops up on a regular basis. Like how do you fund your business? To be quite honest, what we've seen is, and myself, most people, like the banks, are not really. They're not a great option if you start a new business. They don't like risk, and generally speaking, they try to you need to have at least a year's worth of trading history before a bank starts actually lending you money. So it's globally, it's always been a problem is getting finance for SMEs. So there is alternative methods that one can use for financing. One of them is Rainfin, which is quite a nice one. I've dealt with them before. Quite an easy online application, and you can get funding for whether it's to grow your business or to expand, to buy stock. They do cater just for SMEs, retail capital as well. Again, these guys literally just specialize in SMEs. All of them have got online applications, and you would know within one day whether your application has been approved. Other one that I dealt with is Ludolend, also a nice one, that alternative financing. Then what we've seen is most SMEs, they either finance their startups out of their own funds that they've generated out of corporate, or they use their credit cards, or they borrow money from family. Unfortunately, that's just globally how it works. It's the banks are not there to take risks, and they see startups as a major risk. And one of the things where even for companies, and my experience myself, even companies that have been trading for 2, 3, 4 years plus, especially SMEs, the banks are still adverse to actually lending their money. It's just how they are, and that's the reason why these other non-banking institutions actually created a business about it, because these banks are just they're not there in the interest of taking risk. There's actually a while ago there was quite an interesting article where they say why SMEs and banks do not go hand in hand. And one of the major things why banks and SMEs don't work well together is a lot of the time is, and what we've seen as well, that when SMEs, companies that I've inherited in my accounting firm, is when SMEs actually want to apply for credit, or apply for a loan, apply for a bond, is that their financial information is actually either not up to date, or they can't provide the right information to the bank, and most cases they get rejected for any credit. I'm going to discuss something where technology is coming in, and it's one of my latest slides, where accounting software is helping with this sort of problem between banks and SMEs, and I'll get to that later. I see there's another question coming in here. Which one of these financing instruments is the best for a new company looking for factoring or purchase order financing? Okay, so the one that I mentioned there that I've worked with personally is Bridgement. The nice thing with Bridgement, they actually link directly with your accounting system. So, essentially, it's almost like plug and play. You link it to your accounting system, it pulls in your open invoices, and then basically it'll tell you how much funding you can get. So, which is literally within seconds, you would know actually how much they're willing to give you, without actually filling out 10,000 forms and pretty much zero admin. For the purchase of let's say stock or those kind of things, what work quite well is Rainfin and Retail Capital. I've worked with them before, and that's quite nice. That if you got a big order that you need to fill and you need to go borrow some money, those two I would recommend. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, accounting and compliance. So one of the things that over the last 7 years dealing with SMEs, accounting services is still seen as a grudge purchase for SMEs, and which is quite sad. I think at the end of the day is I think as an SME you need to realize that accountants are not necessarily there to run your business for you. They can help you, but it's also limited at the end of the day. And most of the time what we've seen is that SMEs engage with accountants just from a compliance perspective. So they see I'm paying my accountant to do compliance, and that's the only reason why I'm doing it, because SARS said I was doing it. So generally it's still perceived, accounting service for SMEs is still perceived as a grudge purchase. And to be quite honest, it shouldn't be like that. And it is definitely changing in the industry, and technology is definitely creating that balance. And the reason why I'm saying that, we've seen with the modern accounting system, the cloud-based accounting system, which is my next slide, that especially that compliance are getting a lot less the main focus of the service that the accounting practice provide. That it's changing from sort of a reactive environment to basically updating their clients' information on a daily basis. So all of a sudden, the sort of stock standard traditional accounting practice used to just to provide you guys with like your financials, post year end, they do your VAT returns, those kind of things, very, very compliance orientated. The industry has changed a lot in this is continuing to change, where they're moving towards an environment where client now has access to live information. The accountants are updating the information on a daily basis, and all of a sudden they're dealing with financial information on a live basis where they can actually make decisions. And to be quite honest, if you move from this sort of grudge purchase to an environment where your accountant is updating your accounting information on a daily basis, it's changing the whole perspective of actually what your accountants can do for you. And one of the important things is that, from an SME, you guys need to engage with your accountant. You need to ask them the questions. They are not going to run your business for you. Ultimately, you're responsible and accountable running your business, but they are there to help you. And the one thing that I've experienced on my side is they tend to expect their accountants to do everything for them, and that's almost the wrong approach. Is if you need advice, contact your accountants, ask them the questions. They will be willing to help you. And also, in my next slide, I'm going to chat about the impact that software actually has on the relationship between SMEs and the accountants. I see there's a couple of questions here. Let me just see. I don't know if I've asked a question in there. Let me just see. Sorry. I see there's another question here. How do I file annual returns if there was little to no trading in the first year of incorporation? Okay. I would assume trading in the first year. Okay, so I assume that you are running a legal entity. So basically, long story short is that if you are doing little trading your first year, the Companies Act does allow that in your first year of trading that you can consolidate. Normally a financial year is 12 months. In your first year of trading, the actual Companies Act allow you to combine it up to 15 months. Only the first year of incorporation. So that does allow you to actually, for that first couple of months that nothing really happened, you can actually just incorporate that into the next financial year. The other option is if you do register a company and the company is dormant, you still have to file a tax return. It's quite easy to file a tax return. Sometimes SARS might need a letter from your accountant saying the company is dormant, but basically it takes about 10 to 20 minutes to submit it, and then because theoretically there's no financial information, so it's more like a tick box on a return. Let me see, there's more questions here. Meryl, I think the reason why SMEs are wary of accounting process is because not understood by most of the SME principles, and like anything in life, we steer away from things we don't know, not necessarily don't like. Okay, cool, that's a good question. So that actually, going on to my next slide, Meryl, I'm just gonna sort of like, one of the things that where technology is bringing the balance between accountants and SMEs. I'm just going to go over to my next slide, is with the modern accounting systems that's out there, and basically I've just listed the top three as Xero, QB, which is QuickBooks, and Sage 1. One of the things that if you deal with your accountant is very important, my advice would be, is that you guys, that as an SME, you should be on a modern accounting, cloud-based modern accounting system, shouldn't be on desktop. The benefit of a cloud-based accounting system is that as a business owner, you can actually start using it yourself. Most of these cloud-based systems is actually built. If you can browse the internet and use the system, once you start using the system, all of a sudden you get exposed to a lot more live information. You can actually understand in a much deeper sense what's going on with your business. And it's been a game changer in the last 3 to 5 years globally, is the sort of start of these cloud-based accounting systems, and it's actually empowering business owners. And you shouldn't actually be afraid of, I know, look, accountants at the end of the day, as I'm also a qualified accountant, and we do tend to overcomplicate things, and we do sort of, try and, like, it's sort of a common thing in the industry where at the end of the day, accounting is actually very straightforward. We try and make it sound complicated, so that at the end of the day is like, it sounds like, but you can't do it. And that's not always true. I think the role of accountants is changing away from compliance. A lot of the compliance things, to a degree that some people can actually start doing themselves. One thing that what we've seen is from actually my practice itself, we are sort of, where historically compliance were like 80% of what we did. All of a sudden, it's about 10% now. 90% is actually focused helping the SME actually like grow his business, and actually providing him with up-to-date financial information so he can make better decisions. So I see there's another question. Meryl, I agree. As a freelance bookkeeper, I found that my client do not understand the process. They want to concentrate on getting the work done. Look, guys, that's true. It's as a SME myself, you're gonna need to understand if you start a business, you basically you're the HR person, you're the marketing director, you're the operational director, you're the financial director. So these SMEs, they that when it comes to admin, they literally look. Any SMEs are probably the worst when it comes to admin. So you need to. So at the end of the day, as an accountant, it's almost I have to try and make my client's life as easy as possible and trying to take as much of the admin away from him. And that's where these accounting software actually, Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage 1 come into play. They do play a big role of helping the client, taking away that admin. And at the end of the day, my own experience is seeing once you sort of take away that admin from the business owner so they can focus on actually running their business, all of a sudden you actually have a complete different perspective, and they also have more appreciation of what the accountants actually do for them. So coming back to the accounting software for SMEs, cool. I see there's no more question there. Between Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage 1, and I'm going to be completely honest, they're all very great software. I'm not sure if you guys have experience with them. I do prefer Xero itself. The one reason why I prefer Xero is because they managed to get the balance between what business owner wants and what accountant wants. This is software that is built for the business owner. They literally have no or zero accounting jargon in the system. If you can browse the internet, you can use the system. And that's a nice thing with it, is basically when you start off a business, you might not have enough money to pay an accountant to provide bookkeeping service and compliance service at the end of the day. And with the liking of Xero, you can literally start up it by yourself. If you set it up, you'll be up and running within 10 minutes. You can start transacting and start issuing invoices. The bank recons has been done in such a way that pretty much any person with no financial background will be able to do his own bank recon. So that's why we prefer Xero. It's really powerful software for the business owner. When you start off a business, you can do a lot of the work yourself. As you start growing, you can start outsourcing it to the accountants. And also from an accounting point of view, we do love it because it's quite powerful. And also, like I said, it's your traditional accounting practices used to update maybe your information on a monthly day basis, maybe yearly. With the liking of Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage 1, we're moving into an environment where it's daily. So business owners actually have now access to live financial information. And I always tell clients, it's almost like, when the iPad came out, people were like, why do I need an iPad? And then eventually you got an iPad, and then you realize, but how did I manage without an iPad? And this is the same scenario. Once you guys start using these software and you get exposure to live financial information, your book's pretty much up to date. You actually would realize that how did I manage to run my business without this? It's very powerful, and once you're used to it, you won't be able to survive without it. So my advice is from a very important. If any of your accountants is advising you to use any desktop software, that's wrong. It should be cloud-based, and just don't always take the advice from accountants when it comes to software. They normally advise people on software what they used to. That's one shortfall in the accounting industry that I must admit, is that they do tend to advise on software that they're comfortable with. I do own a software company as well, so I can sort of tell you with credibility that Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage 1 are brilliant software for SMEs, and really advise you guys to actually have a look at it. And a lot of the questions that we get, when do you actually move on to an accounting system? My advice would be as soon as possible. The sooner you move on to any of these systems, the better. It's a lot easier updating information on a daily basis, weekly basis, and trying to catch it up after a year at the end of the day. Guys, that's everything from my side. Is there any other questions? I see there's questions coming in now. Oh, the other one, sorry, Brian, it's quite interesting. Brian asked, the other one is Wave. So sorry, I worked with Wave years ago. Wave is quite nice. So it's a free accounting software. But again, the way they make money on ads. So if you guys don't mind seeing ads in your accounting platform, then Wave is a very good option if you don't want to spend money on software. 100%, Brian. See any other questions? Luke, what is the price range of accountant fees for SMEs? So, look, that's an interesting question. Look, my experience, I tell clients, you look, if any client is, you can get accounting services from, there's always cheap and nasty out there, and then at the end of the day, is most of those cheap and nasty, the client feels like they're not getting any value for money. I say if you want good service, your compliance fees for a startup, I would say on a yearly basis, that's including all your tax returns, VAT submissions, payroll, all the compliance side, you can looking at about 10,000 Rand a year. That's a fair price. And there's another question here, Heinrich, can Xero be integrated, downloaded with other accounting software? So Xero is a cloud-based accounting software. All these that I mentioned here, they're cloud-based. There's nothing to download. They're all web-based, so you need internet connectivity. So they are full-fledged accounting systems, all cloud-based. So there's nothing to install. Literally just jump on the internet, jump on a browser, and you're good to go. I see there's more questions coming in here. Okay, still waiting for questions to come in, yeah? Okay, still. Still waiting. Just waiting for Diane. I see Diane is typing a question here for us. Diane, Heinrich, can Xero be in? Okay, so Lucas now typing. So okay, Diane. Sorry, what I meant, if a company uses an accountant that uses Pastel but wants to use Xero, can that info? Oh yes, that's a very good question. Sorry, Diane. So basically, both say, or let's call it Sage Pastel, the one that most traditional accountants use. There's a conversion. The company is called Cloud Convert, so they will convert pretty much any major. They will convert QuickBooks, Sage, any Sage platform, and also Xero. So they basically specialize in converting all your full historical information over to your new accounting systems, which is quite great. So it's literally, they take about a day to two to transfer your information, and you basically all the details in the new system. I know Xero actually does the conversion. So if you convert from Pastel or QuickBooks to Xero, they actually pay for that conversion. So which is quite nice. So if you go for Xero, that it's part of when you sign up, you get it for free. Yeah, and also important, guys. If your accountants are still asking you to use Pastel Partner or something, then it's definitely time that you ask your accountants to move over to a cloud-based system. If your accountants don't want to move, then it's time to move accountants. Is turnover tax a good option for P2 limit running over less than 6 months? So turnover tax, again, it's really a case of in my personal opinion, the problem with turnover tax is that as an SME, first 3 to 5 years, you're still in the growth phase, and you're pretty much going to invest all your profits back into the company. So if you, although your turnover tax is limited to R1 million turnover, so if your turnover is sitting at 600,000 rand, you might still pay tax. Where if you're running a company, the chance are if you're investing that money back into the business, that you're not actually showing a profit, then you won't pay tax. So that's my problem with turnover tax, is that even although the company might not be profitable, that you will still be taxed at the end of the day. So that's why I think it's not, in my experience with SMEs, it's not a very popular structure. Reason is because you still pay tax even although you're not making a profit. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in, yeah? Anybody else? There's Lucas typing another question. Cool, look, no problem. Hope I helped. Hey guys, I see, doesn't look like Diane is also typing again. Cool. I see there's another question here. So Lex is asking a question: what is the best free accounting software that allows you as a freelancer to capture expense slips? So Wave Accounting is it's a free one. They're very good. It's a powerful one. How they make the money, like I said, they work on adverts. So you're just gonna have adverts in your accounting system. If that's okay, then Wave is a good option. QuickBooks or QB, the way they call it. They've got actually a whole package for freelancers, which is, I think, I don't know the pricing, but it's very well priced, and they specifically focus on freelancers. So that's also a good option. Xero does have a sort of a freelance option. I think it's about 100 Rand or something a month. But to be quite honest, from a free point of view, I would rather look at Wave or the QuickBooks freelancer option at the end of the day. So there's another question here. Oh, Diane asked Receipt Bank. Okay. I was actually the first guy who tested Receipt Bank in South Africa. So Receipt Bank, it's a very, very good system. It's very powerful. At the end of the day, from an accounting practice, what we've sort of experienced is that it's, again, you have to educate your clients. You have to tell them, like, if you get a receipt, you need to take a slip of it. It's about a 50% ratio. Some clients adopt it, other clients they just make it your problem. So Receipt Bank is very great, very good software. Again, it comes at a cost, but it's very powerful. To be quite honest, Receipt Bank, what we have seen, what's happening right now is, like with software like Xero, they actually have their own OCR recognition, basically in their own expense claim environment. So when you do use their software and you take pictures of slips, they've got apps for that. It actually converts it automatically into data. So Receipt Bank, we use Receipt Bank where there's like hundreds and hundreds of slips and invoices in a company environment. Otherwise, we'll just use the built-in functionality in the accounting system, like QuickBooks or Xero or Sage. Guys, any other questions? Don't see any other questions. Yeah, guys, if that's done, then I'm going to end the webinar. Thanks for attending. Appreciate. I'm sure if you guys need any other details, I'll actually ask them to put my contact details on the presentation, so you guys can always contact me personally if there's any other questions. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to end it now. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend.